It's fancy booking time once again here on SCW. The Royal Rumble is this Saturday evening, and well, I don't think I'm going to have time to do a fancy booking full Royal Rumble video for you this year, but what I can do is I can put my creative ideas into one video. I've got 10 in total I'm going to talk about here today. Some could contradict themselves if they were actually booked into one Royal Rumble match. But the format, what I like about this is, at the end of the video, you can go in the comment section and say which ones you liked, and maybe what ones you would do differently. So let's not waste any time and get straight into it, shall we? The first one I'm going to talk about is Cody Rhodes and Seth Freakin Rollins. It seems so obvious, doesn't it? Seth freaking Rollins in the Royal Rumble, Cody making his return. Cody wants to focus on going for World Championships, but Seth is in the way. Seth is the guy that ropes him out of WWE. Seth may be more of a babyface now in character since Cody's been away, but certainly cross their paths in the Royal Rumble match and we can get full closure on this without necessarily having to go to a WrestleMania or a following event if we didn't want to. Now, the way I'd like to see this go down, personally for me, perhaps you could book Cody and Seth as number 1 and 2 in the Rumble. Have them at the stare down, kick the match off. We know these two men can play the journeyman role. The question mark then would be, could Cody go the full length of the match if he wants to last to the end, or perhaps even win the Royal Rumble, as many are speculating? What you could do then is you could actually rule Cody out of the match part way through and have him come back at the end. Perhaps maybe, you know, an injury could be put to his shoulder pectoral area once again. Seth Rollins could target on that maneuver. Cody could be taken out via ambulance, could come back in. We've seen that with previous Royal Rumbles in the past, perhaps maybe like a Steve Austin, if you will, back in '99. It's even been a point with that where him and Vince McMahon were fighting through the crowd. You could also do that with Seth Rollins and with Cody Rhodes and have both of them come back at a convenient point in the Royal Rumble match. But this last bit of fantasy booking could personally be my favourite. Like I said, everybody is saying that they think Cody Rhodes probably is going to be the guy to win the Royal Rumble, to go and take on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39. How about we have a repeat of the 1997 Royal Rumble finish? Of course, back then it was in the Alamo Dome, just like we've got here. We've got to have it in Texas there. It's going to be Texas this year as well. And of course, Steve Austin won that Royal Rumble. Now, of course, he was actually thrown over the top rope, both feet hitting the floor, by Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret Hart had actually officially won that Royal Rumble if you do things fairly. But the referees didn't see that Austin had been thrown outside. Austin got back into the ring, threw Bret Hart over the top rope, and Austin was declared the winner of the Royal Rumble. If they did that, you can actually have Seth turn heel in the process at the same time, and also that way you build Seth Rollins to be the one to go to WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes would have to build himself to get into the match at some point further down the line, whether that be Elimination Chamber could be a fine example, and then that way, instead of having Cody versus Roman or Seth versus Roman, why not do the triple threat at WrestleMania? Certainly for me, I think you can have a lot of fun with Seth and Cody in this match. You could even simply have where those two are the final two in the ring, and if you're going to have Cody get the closure on this once and for all, he could be the one to eliminate Seth at the end of the match, and that way you know that we've got a definitive winner and Cody can put Seth in the rear view mirror. Next on the list is none other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Will he return at the Royal Rumble? Will he face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39 in Hollywood? Time will tell. Reports are suggesting perhaps it won't be the case at this particular moment, but you can't help but fantasy book the idea of The Rock coming out towards the end of the Rumble and being the person that eliminates the Bloodline to be the final one standing. It could be the person that eliminates Sami Zayn at the end. Maybe they're the final two standing. Maybe that's the boiling point of where Sami gets kicked out of the Bloodline. But going on to idea number 3, which I think could be quite fun with this as well, Sami Zayn accidentally eliminating Jey Uso from the Royal Rumble. Now, I could pick any member of the Bloodline, but Jey Uso just seems the most perfect in my personal opinion. The reason why is Jey Uso didn't trust Sami Zayn. There's now friction in and amongst the Bloodline. If you start getting that animosity and friction with Jey Uso once again, it could just be the tipping point where the entire Bloodline falls out with Sami Zayn and kicks him out of the group in time for Sami and KO to reunite at WrestleMania. Of course, you can always flip that as well. Perhaps Sami realizes he's being screwed over also. Maybe Kevin Owens is in the Royal Rumble match with him and he actually sides with KO rather than doing a 4-on-1 beatdown, becomes 2-on-3 and the babyfaces actually prevail. Maybe Sami Zayn is the one that turns on the Bloodline after all and not actually being the one that suffers the heartache of being kicked out of the group. Now, I've mentioned the Bloodline. For me, I want to see the Hurt Business reunite. And what if we had a way where we can have a standoff in the Royal Rumble match? The Bloodline on one side, the Hurt Business on the other side. For me, it's printing money, having faction warfare between these two groups. You know, the Bloodline have been taking over both Raw and SmackDown recently. Raw, they've been proving a point week after week. MVP has been speaking to Adam Pearce. What if they're actually getting the Hurt Business back together to actually protect Monday Night Raw, to stop the Bloodline getting into that locker room? I think it could be quite a lot of fun if you were to build that storyline long term, and perhaps you can gradually build this in the Rumble as well, to the point that you have all 4 members of both sides stand there, because Roman, of course, won't be in the match. We have the other 4 members of the Bloodline, have 4 members of the Hurt Business, and you just see, you know, these guys just throwing each other all over the place. And maybe that's where we see some comeuppance for the Bloodline as well. The Hurt Business protecting their field and actually also being dominant in the Royal Rumble match. It could be a fun little program you could build as well between now then and the Elimination Chamber. One more idea with the Bloodline. Now, Solo Sikoa for me is going to be a key guy to keep an eye on, a part of the Bloodline. I think he's going to get the most eliminations in the match. The Samoan Spike coming into good use as well. This guy, I think, will be dominant in the match. But of course, someone that he has had a bit of a problem with leading up to the Royal Rumble is actually the musician, the person who's got the soundtrack for the show, Hardy. Of course, like I said, it's going to be the theme of the Royal Rumble. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble match. After all, he did hit Solo Sikoa on the back with a guitar. It didn't seem like on Raw that was resolved. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a little altercation and a little spot built together in the Royal Rumble. We've seen celebrities involved before. Drew Carey, probably the most famous, in 2001, trying to pay Kane off to not beat him up before throwing himself over the top rope. I think it could be quite a cool little spot as well. And Hardy, I mean, his new album, I think, is #1 on iTunes. I think WWE said this past week. Could be a fun little proposition just to put him in the Rumble match. Some mainstream attention and getting Solo Sikoa a bit of a rub with that mainstream attention as well. Now, I mentioned Bobby Lashley in the Royal Rumble. I'd love to see the Hurt Business reunite, but certainly I think more likely we could see the build with Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar being put in place for WrestleMania 39, the rubber match. Of course, the first match took place at last year's Royal Rumble. The second match taking place at Crown Jewel. They are 1-1, and what better way to build up for the rubber match than doing it through the Royal Rumble match? So the way personally I would book it if I was to do it, I would have certain superstars start the match off, build the ring up a little bit with 8 or 9 entrants, have Brock Lesnar come in, maybe the unlucky 13, that could be a fun way to do it. Brock comes in and just annihilates everybody, everyone thrown over the top rope to the floor. We're back to where we were in 2020. No one can stop the machine that is Brock Lesnar. And of course, the winner of last year's Royal Rumble, only to be confronted by the next entrant, which happens to be Bobby Lashley. And Bobby Lashley eliminates Brock Lesnar immediately from the Royal Rumble. A big shock value, a big surprise, and then we can see, you know, perhaps Brock Lesnar looking to get revenge on Bobby Lashley after that elimination, attacking Bobby Lashley and then throwing him over the top rope. And just to bring things full circle with something I said earlier in the video as well, I mentioned the idea if Cody and Seth were fighting through the crowd, perhaps maybe earlier in the Rumble. They're not around when Brock's carnage takes place, and then of course when we see the ring is empty, Lesnar's left the scene, Lashley's left the scene, that's when we can get Seth and Cody back into the Royal Rumble match once again to get things rolling for the latter stages of the match. Now, the next idea for me comes from none other than Chad Gable, one half of the Alpha Academy. Someone, of course, who's got a very good education. He'll tell you each and every week in WWE. Let's see him have fun in the Rumble match, poking fun at the Texas crowd, saying probably that they can't even count. The fact is that the only way they can count is by seeing it on a screen as we count down from 10 to 1. And of course, when we get to the countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, we see Chad Gable with a microphone just trying to shush everybody, just trying to keep everything quiet. It would be annoying. It probably could be something that could ruin the countdown forever, but at the same time, I think it could be a lot of fun seeing it execute in the match, especially if Chad Gable fails in it, perhaps focuses attention too much on the crowd and ends up getting himself eliminated from the Royal Rumble match. It's just certainly something a little bit different, and could even be a good fun comedy moment for one of the lower card members in the Royal Rumble match, rather than saving all the storylines for just the big time players. Now, something we should keep an eye out for in the Royal Rumble is surprise entrants, perhaps even celebrities. We've seen it previously. In fact, last year Bad Bunny was in the Royal Rumble match. I think he could be a surprise entrant this year as well. Of course, Triple H said he was going to speak to Bad Bunny when he was in an interview with Ariel Helwani last year, of course, around Clash of the Castle time. We could have seen potentially the reason why, because Bad Bunny is going to be featured in the WWE 2K23 game with all the stuff that's come out for the game actually today at the date of recording of this video. I think we can get Bad Bunny as a playable character in the game, which sounds a lot of fun. I think a lot of people would be into that idea, and I think we could perhaps see him in and have a match at WrestleMania once again, because it's going to be a feature of the game. Certainly it coming out around WrestleMania season. I think we're going to see Bad Bunny in a WWE ring once again. Like I say, biggest show of the year as well. We'll get a lot of casual fans in, and a good way to do that is start building it at the Royal Rumble, just like they did also a couple of years ago when he jumped off the top rope onto Miz and Morrison, led as well the tag team match with Damian Priest. Now we link it into where we're going to go with this year, because of course Judgment Day and Rey Mysterio have issues. Rey Mysterio does not want to fight his son, be it Dominic Mysterio wants Rey to attack him. Of course, perhaps Dominic may be someone that eliminates his father in the Royal Rumble. It certainly could be something we could see, but certainly the idea of Rey being outnumbered via the Judgment Day, someone that could actually make the save could be Bad Bunny, and it could lead to a tag team match at WrestleMania. I know we could see Rey versus Dom, but why not have Dom and Damian Priest going against Rey and Bad Bunny? Let's not forget, like I said, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest were tag team partners at WrestleMania a couple of years ago, and only last year Rey and Dom were tag team partners. Now on opposite ends, I think could be a fun way to do it. You can always do Rey versus Dom at WrestleMania Backlash, just drag out that one extra month. The idea that Rey Mysterio still doesn't want to fight his son, I think could be a good way to go. But Bad Bunny making the save for the arguably the greatest luchador of all time, for me it ticks a lot of boxes. I think you get a lot of interest, and for me I think it's something that I'd like to see happen at this Royal Rumble match. Now, I mentioned celebrities, let's keep this one short and sweet. What if Johnny Knoxville came back for another Royal Rumble match to confront Sami Zayn after last year of all the shenanigans and matches that shouldn't have worked? Can you imagine Sami's face of, not you again, especially if he came out with the Jackass crew as well. Now he's got the Bloodline protecting him. I'm sure that Sami Zayn would be the one that come out on top. He certainly did in last year's Royal Rumble, if memory serves me correctly. But like I say, could be a fun comedy spot, but certainly one that I think could be fun if it was to be booked. Now, I mentioned WWE 2K23 just a short time ago. Well, someone else that's going to be a heavy feature of that game is none other than John Cena. Of course, 20 years of Cena in WWE, feels like he's going to have his whole showcase mode. And of course, there are rumours that John Cena will be partaking at WrestleMania this year, and I'd like to see him do it going through the Royal Rumble. Now, the match I want to see him built with is Austin Theory. That's the match I want to see. A lot of people seem to be clamoring for an idea of John Cena versus Logan Paul. That could be a fun match that we could see as well. I mean, it would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? One of the top attractions from WWE over the last 20 years against an attraction, person coming in wrestling in Logan Paul would bring a lot of outside eyes into it just for this one match. But for me, as a hardcore wrestling fan, and a match that we probably never will get to see, to just see a stare down between these two wrestlers in the Royal Rumble, and of course it does need to involve both of them being surprise entrants, John Cena and Stone Cold Steve Austin just staring eye to eye in the middle of the ring, throwing punches out there, maybe a stunner, maybe an attitude adjustment, maybe just enough until we get the next entrant, which could be an Austin Theory before his ass gets handed to him by Austin and Cena. Probably could be a lot of fun if that was to play out. Now, I really am going into the full depths of fantasy booking at this point. Like I said, the last one probably very unlikely, this one even more unlikely, but let's just see one more hurrah for Shawn Michaels, HBK. Like I said, this is in Texas, this show. The last match that, we saw of HBK was at Crown Jewel. It's not one he wants to remember, let's be fair. The send-off should have been at WrestleMania 26. Why not just have him make a cameo in the Royal Rumble? And for me personally, maybe you could even have Cody come in the match later, start off with Seth versus HBK. That could be a lot of fun just to see those two exchange things for a couple of minutes. You don't have to have HBK in the match for very long. It's just great to see him have one more showing in front of fans. For me, I'd love to see it. I think it'd be the perfect placement to do so. Just a Royal Rumble cameo, as I'm sure at this point he wouldn't want to do a full match, but certainly it's something I would love to see. So that's it there for you. Fantasy booking ideas for the men's Royal Rumble. It's now your turn. Let me know what you'd like to see happen in the men's Royal Rumble. Let's get your fantasy booking heads on. Let me know some of your ideas in the comments below, and let me know as well if you've enjoyed some of the ideas in this video. While you've had it as well, if you've enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to SCW, and share this with a friend also. Let them know that SCW is here. Of course, it is the best way to help a channel grow here on YouTube. Word of mouth really does go a very long way. But it's Royal Rumble week, so make sure to keep an eye out on the channel as well. Predictions will be coming on, a live Q&A as well, plus more of these sort of fantasy booking ideas will be coming on the channel. Also, make sure to stay tuned here on SCW. But have yourselves a great day. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you next time.